Another useful constraint we can use is the IK constraint. IK stands for Inverse Kinematics. When we work with bones, generally we're using the concept of forward kinematics. The way that forward kinematics works is that we typically have to go in and rotate each bone individually. So for example, we can start with this one and then rotate the next one to get the pose that we're looking for. The rotation of each bone is independent from one another, and we can rotate bones farther up the chain by using bones at the top of the chain. While forward kinematics is useful in a lot of situations, there will be times when animating this way isn't comfortable. Now let's explore inverse kinematics. When using inverse kinematics, we'll have a point. We'll move that point around, and the entire bone chain will change its rotation to accommodate that point. Let's go ahead and set up an example so that everything's a lot clearer. The first thing that we need to do is create a target. Now we can use anything as a target for the IK constraint, but in this case, we're going to use a group as a target. So let's go ahead and create a group. We can either find the groups in this menu here, or we can use the G key. Once the group tool is activated, we could click anywhere on the artboard to create a blank group. In the inspector, we can change the type from group to target. As you can see, the group has graphically changed on the artboard. Now we're going to take this group and move it to the end of the bone chain. Now let's create the constraint. The first thing that we'll need to do is select the last bone in the chain. Now we can go into the inspector and add a new constraint and make sure that we select the IK constraint. The first thing we'll do is select a target. Now, as we discussed before, that target is going to be the point that we want our bone chain to follow. So we're going to select the group. Now let's rename the group and call it target_IK. You'll notice that when we have the group selected, that one of our bones is yellow. This is letting us know that the bone is currently under the influence of the IK constraint. Now you'll notice that when I move the target, the bone always attempts to rotate to point at it. Now let's explore some more of the properties. So we can select the bone and go back into the properties menu, and you can see that just like the other constraints, we have the strength. We also have target, like the other constraints, and below that we have this option for bone count. The bone count shows us how many bones in the chain are being influenced. Right now, we only have a single bone being influenced, and if we wanted both to be influenced, then we need to increase this number from 1 to 2. Now when we select the group, you'll see that both bones are being highlighted. And now when we move the group, you'll notice that both of the bones are going to be affected by the IK constraint. Notice that no matter where we move the target, both bones rotate to accommodate its position. You can think about this target like a leg. So when we move the foot, now we have a bent knee. Now we can always invert the direction that our bones bend, and we'll have to go back into the constraint properties menu. So let's select the bone, go back in here, and then hit the invert direction toggle. You'll see that as soon as we hit the toggle, our bones are now rotating in the opposite direction. So let's hop into animate mode, and we're going to experiment with some of these properties. So one thing that we can do is you'll notice that the invert direction has a keyable property. So we're going to create a key here at 20 frames where it is on, and then we'll go a few frames further, so like at 40, and then toggle that off. Now you'll see that we have both keys, and if we previewed the animation, we can make the bones rotate in opposite directions. Like our other constraints, we also have the strength property as an animatable property. And so what we could do is we could animate with our IK constraint. And then if we needed to go back to forward kinematics, we could key it to 0 and begin animating that way. And that's it. Now you know how to animate with both forward and inverse kinematics.